This is TJ Zito Jr., Digi705 PhD student, Liberty University, talking today about social media influence and sales. So we start looking at the history of relationship sales, and we look at Japanese relationship theory, and you look at the American viewpoint on that. Back in the 1980s, Canon was very instrumental in Japanese theory, actually figuring out that if they went to their customer base, that they could learn more about the flaws of their products. And this actually was able to help them increase sales. So American companies were learning from Canon, a Japanese company, of how they were doing this. And it was almost out of a fear. So a lot of the 1980s mentality of relationship sales was done almost out of fear of the Japanese way. So we see movies like Gung Ho with Michael Keaton almost parroting the Japanese way of doing business. And Americans tried to emulate somewhat of the relationship sales, and we see many methodologies out there, such as spin selling and fox selling and selling to veto. A lot of corporations, Fortune 500, spend a lot of money sending their sales reps out to these classes or bring in consultants to try to quantify techniques and prove effectiveness. They try to use exact wordings, exact styles, exact process. And a lot of these techniques are very expensive, take week-long classes, and really they make a lot of money for the consultants, and they do not always translate into sales for the companies. And we see American relationship sales. We're used to seeing the executives out on the golf courses, or we see the expensive football suites or the expensive sporting events. And these are usually very male-oriented relationship sales. So even if there are female clients or female products, or these are, female customers, a lot of times it's still a very male-oriented relationship style sales that we see in the United States. And things are changing because you're seeing the advent of social media, and social media is creating new opportunities for relationship sales. You're seeing Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and all these different apps that are creating opportunities for relationship sales that were not there before. And they're using a lot of old communication theories, such as Horton and Wall's Parasocial Interaction. Parasocial Interaction, going back to 1956, the idea that we get an attachment to who we see on the screen. We feel like we know them personally, and there's different aspects of what they do with their personality that kind of pull us in a little bit as viewers. So we feel like we know them and we could trust them, even though we don't know the person on the other side of the screen. And as customers, we feel like we do know them. And this is coming through with social media, and people are learning to take advantage of parasocial interaction to actually build relationships with the viewers out there. So what you have is a model of social media influencers that are developing an audience, and within their audience, they're developing relationships with them that are very powerful. They're able to make product recommendations, and their audiences are actually listening to them, and it makes these influencers very powerful. So we try to look at what that means as far as broadcast versus internet use. We're seeing broadcast go down, and we're seeing internet use go up. People are turning to their cell phones. People are turning to YouTube and to TikTok and Instagram for entertainment. We're no longer going to the family sitcom, or we're no longer turning on the news on television. We're going to our cell phones to try to find that information. And it's not always websites. We're not necessarily caring about the expert anymore as much as the entertainment value. We will go search for our politics on YouTube. We will go search for our recommendations for products we want to use on Instagram. We will go everywhere looking for people that have experience or perceived experience, or people we just think we can trust based off the parasocial interaction. So we look at other traditional comm theories, such as entertainment education or Goffman's framing theory. Framing theory suggesting that everybody kind of has an idea or some sort of agenda that they want to pass along. So if we look at the influencers that are out there, they have certain things that they want to pass on to their audience. So they frame their character, they frame their shows, they frame their content in a way that is very persuasive to the audience that watches it. So using framing, they figure out what will be persuasive to the audience, and they act in that way, or use terminology in that way, or use the product in a certain way to be the most persuasive. And looking at the idea of entertainment education, like I said, we're no longer going to television for that entertainment. We're going online, and we're getting our product recommendations as a form of entertainment. So we're watching these internet hosts. We're watching them for entertainment as much as we're watching them for information. And as you look look at the old school celebrity endorsements. Those are expensive, very expensive to get your Leonardo DiCaprio or your Michael Jordan or Taylor Swift to do your product ad. And it's very much a one-way communication. You don't have a two-way communication. With Leonardo DiCaprio, if it's a print ad, I can't message Leo on that print ad to see what he thinks about it. But with social media influencers, it opens up a wave of two-way communication to where the audience can actually reply back to the influencer. So the influencer can then in turn reply back to the audience. So it's very powerful because you get a two-way street of communication going. So you're looking, what is a celebrity influencer? Do they start as celebrities or they become them? The truth is they're both of them. So the internet is creating a new wave of celebrities, people we've never heard of that just get hot on the internet. We can't predict viral videos and we can't predict the next celebrity host. We don't know who it is that's going to get hot and get over 1 million views. So you've got people like the Diamond Minecart, Dan TDM, that he wasn't anybody in particular, but really found a niche in the gaming market and took off with younger demographics. Jaclyn Hill in makeup. She was a makeup specialist that worked at different retail stores such as Mac Cosmetics and was able to find a home on YouTube giving product demos and product recommendations. And now she's one of the hottest influencers out there today with millions of followers, and she's even coming up with her own makeup lines that are becoming a hit out in the stores like Sephora and Ulta. And then you've got like American gymnast. She was an Olympic gymnast, Shawn Johnson. Her and her husband have almost like a reality show to where they're giving recommendations for products. They're giving insight into their life. They've got YouTube and Instagram, and they're doing things where they build an audience and they're receiving products from companies and they're giving reviews and making recommendations. So the answer is a celebrity influencer these days can be anyone. Maybe they do have a background in the Olympics or they have a background in television or radio, or maybe they don't. Maybe it's somebody we've never heard of. The point is they get hot online, and there's not been any conclusive research of why they get hot. We don't know what it is. We don't know what drives certain hits to certain channels. We don't know if it's language. We don't know if it's visualizations. As researchers, we're just now figuring that out. And we're seeing face-to-screen communication, that we're trying to research this and understand it. We're trying to understand, how do relationships form? What is parasocial relationships? What factors are interesting for parasocial online? We're seeing so much face-to-screen contact that is not really eye to eye. It's really mediated contact. It's mediated communication. We're really making eye to screen, and then whoever we're talking to is also making eye to screen. In our mind, we think it's eye to eye because we feel like when we see somebody on the screen, we feel like we're talking to them, but we're really just talking to our cell phones. And with this, it's weird. It's almost like technology is becoming part of us. Not like a pacemaker. It's not something that's implanted, and it's not something that is surgically inside of us, but our cell phones, our tablets, our laptops, they never move far away. They're always close to us. It's always somewhat part of our daily routine. We can't really just check out anymore. We can't say, hey, we're going to put the cell phone down for an hour. We're always on call. It's almost like a doctor. Even if it's not for work or for school, it's almost for social. We feel like we have to check our email. We have to check our hits. We have to check our likes. We have this longing to know what's going on. And we feel connected to the people that follow us on social media. We feel connected to the celebrities that we follow, the internet influencers. If we leave a comment, we want to know if the influencer is going to message us back. So we are consistently going back to our social media, going back to our cell phone, and that technology becomes a piece of us, almost like we're part cyborg. It's almost like it's a voluntary thing that we allow this technology to be part of us. So as we look at face-to-screen communication, there's very much a power dynamic that's forming that we are giving into technology. And we can't just say social media like a blanket term. Platforms need to be studied separately. There's so many platforms. Instagram is separate from Facebook. Twitter is a different world than Facebook. Instagram is completely different than TikTok. TikTok trends are just throwing a curveball into everything, and we don't even know what to think of TikTok yet. So all these different social media, bodies, if you will, platforms, they all act different. They all behave different, and they all have to be approached different. We can't just say a social media influence anymore, because there's a difference of an Instagram influencer versus a TikTok influencer versus a YouTube influencer. The content is different. The audience is different. The demographics is different. Everything wrapped up and involved is different. So it can't be a blanket term. We have to separate this and we have to study it. And that's very difficult because young users are dominating social media. And that's why we say things like, okay, boomer. Even though I'm Gen X, I'm a Gen Xer, I'm 42 years old. Okay, boomer. The young people call me a boomer, right? Because language is changing. Everything is changing from this social media, and it's young people that are driving it. So PhDs, maybe I'm a young PhD, an old PhD, as I'm working on it at 42 years old. But as we're going to research social media, it's very difficult because we're outside the demographic. We might be able to get on TikTok, we might be able to get on Instagram, but it's something we're learning later in life. As a youth, they're coming up and it's part of their lifestyle immediately. So like my son that is 13 years old, Instagram is a part of his development, it's a part of his social, it's a part of his generation. Just like as a Gen Xer, MTV was part of my generation, social media is part of their generation. And we have to learn to study it as older researchers, and we have to pass that research on to the next generation. And I don't think we're going to understand it. We're not going to be able to research this as Gen Xers and boomers and understand it because we can't see through the viewpoint and standpoint theory like Dr. Houston. We can't look through the standpoint of a younger demographic and understand what social media means, and we can't understand the norms of all the different platforms, but we can try, and we could try to apply some of the older theories. So as we look at influencers, the equipment out there is low cost. There's less production than TV. They can go out there with their cell phones, inexpensive ring lights, and use shotgun mics and basic microphones and get really good quality. Today's digital cameras just give excellent quality. So you've got very good looking videos out there and tons of technique clips that are around the internet to where anybody can learn to produce good clips and become an influencer. So it doesn't take a skill. It doesn't take videography skill. It doesn't take a big budget. It doesn't even take a skill in whatever it is that you're trying to influence. It just takes a desire to make the video, and can you build the audience? And what does the audience look for? It's tough to tell. It's not always expertise. It's just perceived expertise. Maybe it's entertainment. There's a lot of physically attractive people out there that are getting lots of viewers, lots of likes, and we see different things of male and females that are in very good shape and using their pictures and videos of their physical attractiveness to gain likes and gain viewers. That doesn't necessarily make them an expert in any particular subject, but the audience may perceive them as experts. So these influencers can build an audience, and they can get companies to hire them to pitch products and to build relationships, and they don't have to have any particular background in the subject and the matter or any expertise at all. They just have to be perceived as trustworthy. So as we look at the influencer model, it's interesting that they just have to be trusted by the audience. And that's why they have such a strong influence on language and on trends. We're seeing symbols that are coming through that are adopting new meanings. And that's how language is formed. It's all about symbols that get accepted by two or more people. And once those symbols are accepted and they become part of terminology and they hit the internet, the speed just goes so fast. So we're seeing language that's changed, especially through the influencers. If you're getting out on the internet, you better know how to hit the whoa, because all the kids are out there doing it. And you got to know what woke is. It used to just mean that you wake up in the morning, but now woke is part of a big social movement. And if you just don't like that, maybe you're salty about it. And you got to learn what salty means, because maybe you don't like what's going on. Hey, you better know what Netflix and chill is, because it doesn't mean sitting down on the couch and watching movies, because maybe all this is just a little bit cringy. Hey, I want to know when the word cringy is going out of style, right? Cringy should be cringy on its own. And we have all these terms that are coming in through the internet, things like visco and throwing shade and thirsty. And we ask Siri and we ask Alexa and we Google it and we find followers. All these things are coming through social media influence, and social media influencers are taking advantage of it. They are helping create language. They are helping create trends, and they are attaching these to products and then spreading it to their audience. The audience, we're using the language, we're using the products, and we're following the influence of the social media host. And it's an interesting models out there that they're in all industries. It's not just in makeup, such as Jaclyn Hill. We're seeing this in video editing. Guys like Zach King that have millions of followers. We're seeing even like smoking barbecue pit boys that has millions of followers that teach people how to smoke barbecue. All companies, all hobbies, all influencers are starting to come in whatever industry it is that they want to promote products. And it's great for companies that make products, because they can cover large geographic areas. They can get influencers to pitch their products worldwide, right? And they can have unique influencers for any demographic or any geographic area. If they want an influencer in India, they can have an influencer in India that primarily does that area. If they want to have one in the southern U.S. to hit southern U.S. demographic, they can have one in the southern U.S. So they can change demographics, change influencers. Basically, the influencers work for independent contractor pay. They're not on salary, or a lot of them work for special discount deals. They don't even get paid. They just get 40% off or 50% off of products. They get coupons. So many influencers are not even hired by companies at all. Companies don't even have to reimburse them. They're just out there hoping to get Insta famous or YouTube famous or online famous. They're making product recommendations for free. So who really benefits from this? The companies that have the products, because they're paying very little money to build relationships with the end users out there. Or maybe they're paying no money at all and building relationships with end users. So they're no longer having to hire the corporate sales reps. They're no longer having to do the football games. Maybe they don't have to do the expensive golf outings. They can have these online influencers pitching and demo products, and they're able to do it more efficiently, reach a wider audience, and do it for less money than traditional sales reps. So that's what's interesting out there, is this can be big corporate business or it can be small business. So we're seeing big corporate companies that are doing this. We're seeing it with Apple. We're seeing it with iPhones, right? But then we're also seeing it from the mom and pop restaurant down the street. Maybe they're getting a local influencer to come to the restaurant and try their pizza. So we're seeing it in all avenues. It could be big, it could be small. Influencers can have millions of viewers and influence a mass audience, or it could be a local person with only maybe 1,000 viewers, but it influences those 1,000. So it's all about driving sales. It's all about building relationships. It's all about driving product. And at the end of the day, the companies that make these products are benefiting because they are getting the inexpensive advertising. They are getting the word out. They are getting everything that they want for sales coming through internet influencers. And it's a heck of a bargain compared to the traditional models. So as you look, some companies may even employ their influencers. They may have a team that's influencers because they may teach best practices about their product. So you look at an editing software like video company Pinnacle Studios. They have a gentleman, his job is just to show demos online, and he messages end users back and forth through the comments. He brings up the end users in his comments, and he shows the best practices of how to use their video software. So he's actually employed by the company. And that's an interesting model too. They don't always have to go outside the company to find them. They may use their public relations rep. They may use their video guy. It may be somebody that just happens to work in the building and they think he has a terrific personality or she has a terrific personality, and they would make a good internet host. Like I said, there's no way we can predict who gets hot on the internet. Maybe they're physically attractive. Maybe they're funny. Maybe they just for whatever reason have some sort of quality that we can't put our finger on. They've got that it factor, just that crazy it factor that drives hits, that drives viewers, that drives the audience straight to that site. It's very hard to predict viral. It's very hard to predict what host is going to get hot. So for social media comments, it really opens up a two-way street. It's a way for influencers and companies to receive feedback. Companies can receive influencer feedback and end user feedback. And at the end of the day, that can create better products. And what's interesting is that's exactly what Canon was doing back in the 1980s. When they were building relationships, that's exactly what they were doing. They were going to the manufacturing plants. They were going to the end users. They were going to where their products were being sold. And they were trying to learn better ways to make their product, better ways to sell their product. What was it the customers liked? What was it that the vendors liked? What kind of things did they not like? How could they make the process better? That's exactly what Canon was doing with Japanese theory in the 80s. And we're seeing this with social media influence. The influencers are gaining valuable feedback from the people that are using the product. The people that are using the product are leaving comments on the influencers. They're leaving them on the blogs, on the social media. A lot of times they're leaving them even on the end user sites themselves. So we got an example here of Southwest Airlines, and they received a complaint and they went right to it. So you've got all these different relationships that are being formed, all this two-way street of communication. At the end of the day, it's going to build a better product. The clients will build a better product with the feedback. And it becomes a very powerful relationship sales model. So as you look at like the features for TikTok or the features for Instagram or YouTube that you can go live, the influencers are actually going live and their audience members are interacting live with the influencers. So it's almost like being there in person. The influencer can talk to their audience, and then the end users can say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Influencer, I like the product, but I don't like this. The influencer can then take that valuable feedback and bring it back to the company that manufactures. And maybe there's change that's going on. But it's very powerful when you have these live videos because you're getting that eye-to-eye contact, but it's coming face to screen, but you feel like it's coming eye to eye. And it's a very powerful way to create that parasocial relationship because the end users, right, they feel like they're connected to the influencer. They feel like the influencer cares about them. If the influencer gives them a shout out and says, hey, user 234, I see your complaint and I'm going to take that to the company and see what I can do about it. Then the end user, the person actually using the product, they feel empowered. They feel special. They feel a connection to the influencer. They feel a connection to the company. So we have a relationship that's going all the way down the line and back up. And that's what's making this social media influence model just so impressive, is how much communication is being shared. And if you're going to study this, it's got to be a mixed method. It can't just be a quantitative approach. It just can't be a qualitative approach. We've got to measure, how does social media influence happen? What factors such as demographic, socioeconomic, what plays a role in the data? What's considered social media? These days, we're watching social media on television. Does it change if we watch it on our 70-inch television versus our telephone, our cell phone versus our tablet? Does parasocial interaction, does it change when I watch it on a large tablet versus a small tablet? Is it different if I'm watching on a large tablet with Instagram? Does it change if I look at it on my phone with Instagram? There's so many variables in there to consider. We just can't give a blanket statement that it's all about one style of equipment or all about one social media platform. There's so many variables that we got to look at. So that's why it's very tough to measure parasocial. And we got to look at things like, was the celebrity, influential before they were on the internet? Were they a traditional celebrity that crossed into the internet? Were there somebody that we had never heard of and now they're a celebrity host? What is a traditional celebrity? What is an internet celebrity? Who has more influence? How do we feel about them? How do we feel about TV stars coming onto the internet? How do we feel about internet stars going to the TV? There's so much crossover. So there's so many variables on there. You would have to nail down each one and do very specialized studies. I don't think this is anything PhDs we're going to accomplish in the near future. It's so wide based and it took off so fast compared to what we did. We've been researching television and radio for decades. We've been analyzing Nielsen data. We've been analyzing parasocial with television, and we're just now starting to understand that. So this whole realm with social media platforms, about time we study YouTube, there's going to be something new in. About time we get our finger on TikTok, there's going to be 10 more apps that take its place. Social media is moving at such a pace, it's hard for researchers to keep up, but we got to do it. We got to give it our best. We got to take the theories, the comm theories out there. We got to take our knowledge of new media. We got to take our knowledge of TV and radio and an internet, and we got to try to apply it to all these social media platforms out there, and we got to give it our best. So we don't have any conclusive answers, but we see things that are out there. The comm scholar inside of us is just jumping up and down. We see the knowledge and we see the ideas and we see the theories, but we just got to work to figure that out. And that's our job as comm scholars. That's our job as researchers to go out there, figure out how to apply the theories, put in the new research, and do something different out there in the industry.